important for us to have a conversation. I have two researchers. You are both researchers, like uh, Commission Secretary Sylvester Zama. He is also um, a researcher and a writer. Now, all of these speculations that you've made, I would like to get your reaction, SOS Zama, please, before we find out what is happening across Africa and the world and get back into the debate.
Thank you for having me this evening, Comrade Paddy. I think Comrade Ghana has really laid the groundwork, which is well researched and well informed. Um, no matter what happens in East Cameroon, I still call it East Cameroon mostly. I grew up in that part of the country, in Yaoundé. But we have to understand that no matter what happens there, it's none of our business. We have to understand that. But on the same side, as he said, we have Africans who are going to be killed. No matter who wins, if we are not, we don't stick this thing together and get the French people together to fight this out, they'll be at the mercy of the French for another 50 or 100 years, which is purely at the detriment of the Africans or Cameroonians in this place. Regarding our own existence as Ambazonians, we have all these resolutions that are backed by law, affirmed by pillar poles defining our territories. We cannot do anything less than total independence. That has to be acknowledged. No matter what La Republic decides to, no matter they may tell their people they don't have an independence day, it's the only country in the world that I know that does not have an Independence Day. The Independence Day is a very fictitious one. It's They never celebrate the 1st of January, 1960, as their Independence Day like Nigeria and other countries do. But at the end of the day, we have to understand that the ramification in Yaoundé is strictly within their own purview. We as Ambazonians, we should cheer them on. If they want to slaughter themselves, that's their business. They don't know how to negotiate. They will never negotiate. But I'm telling the youth of La Republique that no matter what Kamto does or Issa Chiroma, that country is theirs, and they are all to lose if they continue the same path they are going with their leaders. They have to go to the streets. They have to do what they must do because the guns will not stop any person. The revolt of people is like a tsunami. There's nobody able to stop a tsunami. They should go out there in mass day after day and make these people uncomfortable. Let them not be comfortable. Let them not sleep, because the more they sleep, the more they strategize to kill them. They will cling to power as much as they want because that's the only thing they have. They will know that they will be purged. They know that they will be chased because they've been loofed for 43 years. They've not done a single thing. Yaoundé does not have running water. I grew up in Yaoundé in the 70s where they had they were doing water pipes, and they put a 8-inch pipe of water for population that were estimated to be by the year 2025 or 2022 to be about 3 million. That was not sufficient. Not even that, they don't have no salination of water in that country. So this thing is not that this man has done a lot of stuff even for his own people in his own BT tribe. These people are suffering like any other person in the country. They don't have no roads, they don't have no water, no hospitals, no schools. So it's a whole place that has been taken up by these people. And I think we have to understand that these people have gone through the same suffering that we have, but on a different context. Over to you.
I think they've gone through, and you see, this is the argument that they bring on board to want to neutralize. When we started reclaiming our freedom 2016, 2017, they brought this argument that the people, the Baka Bantus in the East are also facing the same crisis, or they are marginalized environments like we all are facing. And that's quite remarkable. But then you have just been appointed. I think this is the second time we're having you. Both of you have been reappointed or appointed similar different capacities. I want to talk to you very briefly now before we get into the newsroom, Barrister Ghana. When you are a lawyer, you have studied law on a very high level. You understand international law, I think, better than any one of us on this platform. When you look at the world despising us when we bring this argument and the processes that are slow, you look at what is happening in the East with Hamas, Palestine. Tabitha has a report in that regard. When you look at all of this, how feasible do you think the legal argument, which is what the government in exile stands for, how do you think this legal argument will bear more fruits for Amazonia in the now? Let's say peradventure we are weakened on the ground militarily. How can we use, what instruments can we employ at this critical time to make sure that we break through significantly with our legal argument? Barrister Ghana, please.
There are several things that we should be doing, okay? And part of our limitation in Ambazonia is all about funding. And it's not that Ambazonians do not have money. And I'm speaking now to Ambazonians, especially here in the United States, who have deep pockets. There's a lot that is or needs to go on that we need to be able to fund. We need to be able to fund people that can carry out that diplomatic exercise. This is the hot moment that we should be hitting the halls of the United States Congress, lobbying congressmen, lobbying senators, lobbying the UN. Because I've been to the United States Senate, I've lobbied a lot of senators, I've been to the United States Congress, I've probably hit the office of about 250 congressmen. I've presented at the State Department several times. And these efforts make a difference. This effort inform people of our cause. We might think that they are abundantly aware of our cause, but they are not. Just imagine somebody who goes to school in North Dakota, graduates, works in some corporation, and later runs as a congressman for North Dakota. Think that person is going to understand the details of what is happening in Amazonia? No, they are not going to understand. But when we beat the path, when we hit the path and go to those offices and prepare the right documents and submit it to them, when we request Ambazonians in the various states to write and submit documents to their congressmen and remind them and have these congressmen sign resolutions in the United States Congress, in Senate. You know how we went to Chicago and we lobbied senators in Illinois to pass a resolution banning arms shipments to Cameroon. And they gave us a promise due to our presentation that they were going to, within a month's time, pass a resolution that will ban arms shipments to Cameroon, which they did. And so we have a lot of Ambazonians in the United States who have deep pockets, who can help fund these activities. They do not need to be funding the military campaign that is going on in Ambazonia through the government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. But they could be funding diplomatic initiatives that will help us pass laws and push resolutions that will topple this regime in Yaoundé. If we had not done some of the lobbying that we did, this would not have happened. Let me give you an example of the inclination of a people or the deep pockets within a people that can sponsor a movement. Yes, I know Ambazonians, when we have a fundraising exercises, are contributing monies to help in the defense and the restoration of the sovereignty of Ambazonia. But let me go back in the United States to the 60s, when we had the civil rights movement, where people like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X were leading that movement to free African Americans. It was only later in the 2000s that we realized that somebody like Harry Belafonte, who was a well-paid Hollywood actor at that time, was one of those who was the principal sponsors of Martin Luther King. And so that was a deep pocket within the African American community that was helping to sponsor the movement despite the fact that nobody knew about it. Do we have deep pockets within the Ambazonian community? Yes. And sometimes we expect miracles from our leaders. We have to ask ourselves, somebody like Sako, who is the president of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, how much are we providing to him as a stipend where he can get up in the morning, just think and strategize on what we should do? People think that revolutions run on thin air. Absolutely, they do not. So, Ambazonians, first, especially those who are in the diaspora, have to be very conscious of sponsoring the revolution, especially the diplomatic initiatives that we're talking about. We should be out there lobbying some of these African countries to recognize the independence of Ambazonia, because there's abundant international law, there is abundant international precedent that shows that Ambazonia is an independent country. So there's a lot that we can be doing. Kudos to our 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 our, our the Ambazonians fighters on the ground who have demonstrated for 8 years that they can go toe to toe with the government or with the army of French Cameroon, who have rejected French Cameroon's assumed legitimacy over Ambazonia because they don't have any. So we should be helping to fund especially diplomatic initiatives so that we can exploit this situation in Yaoundé and cut off. And let me tell you something, it is not going to go down in French Cameroon without bloodshed. There is this guy who was being interviewed, sorry, I'm going to call his name, who was being interviewed by Chris Ano. It's a guy from Texas, and he was talking about how things function in Yaoundé. If you listen to that interview, there's a lot that is between the lines of what might be coming down in French Cameroon. If you listen to that interview and you listen between the lines, there's a lot that the international community or the United States or some significant stakeholder might already be in the works of doing to topple that regime in Yaoundé. And we have to be positioned militarily, diplomatically, to be able to seize advantage of that and shepherd Ambazonia towards being an independent and sovereign nation. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I hope I did.
You did quite good, but I have a lot of other questions. I'm going to challenge you when we come back from the newsroom. But let me ask you this question because I want you, SOS Zama, to make a contribution briefly. Peradventure, which uh, uh, we are hoping for, on one side being empathetic. I've seen this, the Commission Secretary for Foreign Affairs being empathetic that he really doesn't want more lives being lost. But what is the strategic advantage if not just an uproar like we're seeing now in East Cameroon, like you call it, or La République du Cameroon, or neighboring French Cameroon? If it escalates, if Plan Z of Issa Chiruma, which a lot of people, Yaoundé is confused now, they don't really know exactly what he's planning. They are unable to identify his next move. What if something in that sort happens? Of what strategic advantage it is for our initiatives on the ground? Because it is public knowledge, and a proud one, that Ambazonia has picked up guns against the intruding forces of French Cameroon. What is the strategic advantage for us that are defending our homeland? Or do you think this time international powers will give reinforcement to Yaoundé? France may come in, and other actors or stakeholders internationally might become more interested and making it more complicated for us, because it's a little bit complex if we want to look at it just the fact that, okay, Cameroon will need more support east of the Mongo. What is the strategic advantage? I want you to look at it from a diversified standpoint, please.
I think what many people don't remember is that we are not fighting to replace a Paul Biya with Chiroma or whoever. We are
Yes.
trying to kill a system that has been so endemic and so pernicious in our society. A war in La Republique is to our advantage because it's going to battle their soldiers. It's going to diminish their strength and their ability, because their sole goal now is to be able to settle their differences in La Republic, and then make it an about turn and come back to finish the business in Amazonia. The more they fight, I would say good for us. Um, but at the end of the day, we are not going to wait for them to fight. We are going to help to cripple this system. We are not only going to sit and bandage our wounded, we are not going to only sit and fan the flame, but we have to diminish their battle readiness and their battle abilities in Amazonia with the soldiers that are there so that they cannot have no reinforcement. This is the time that we must do it. This is the time, if Cheroma really wants to do anything for La Republique, they should do it, because now they are confused. They are very, very confused with what's going on. If they wait and give them time to reconstruct themselves and get their alliances and make deals that is so sweet for their foreign backers, yes, they will have to fight. More people will die in that return. But at the end of the day, we have to do what we must do. We must do what we must do because we have to protect our people. And we have to protect our people by going on the offensive and taking out all these people who are stationed in forward bases in Amazonia and make it ungovernable for them, and start constituting our government structures in local areas and have to start controlling total control of the territory that we have with no encumbrance from the administrators from La Republique or whoever that is. At the end of the day, we have to understand that and make all these people who are thinking that, they don't love war. War is a necessary thing when an uneasy peace lasts forever with a lot of problems that we have. Our students don't go to school. Our students go to school and earn degrees but can't find work because, first of all, they speak English or they are from the English zone. So what kind of fun education are we waiting for? We are not fighting this war to have education. We are fighting to liberate ourselves. And all those people, like Comrade Ghana said, um, they should contribute for this war because liberty is not free. And some people may call us extremists, but as Barry Goldwater had stated earlier in '64, that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice. We have to understand that. And those of us who are in this front line fighting this war, which is sometimes a war of attrition of our people, we have to try as much as possible to limit the war. Most wars of liberation averages about 13 years. We are going into year 9. So if worst case scenario, we still have 4 more to go. But at the end of the day, we have to absolutely join forces with every Amazonian, irrespective of what branch of your fight you're fighting. We have to fight the common enemy. We could keep our house in order after that.
That's a great one.